Thank you, Maria. I'm very happy to be here today. And hello to everyone. So my name is Kathy Ann Tan. I go by the pronoun she and they. And I am a person of color of Asian descent, quite tall, medium build. And today I'm wearing a black t-shirt and I have on round glasses with black frames. And at some point, my dog Baldwin might come into the frame as well. So just a kind of disclaimer on that. I'm really happy to tell you a little bit about this 7-month program that's being offered by Node. So on inclusive curatorial practices, accessibility, representation, and diversity. And first and foremost, of course, I want to say that I'm speaking in the capacity of the program coordinator and also the mentor who will accompany you if you decide to enroll for this program and dedicate yourself to it across the span of 7 months. I will accompany your progress in the program, and I also teach one component, like one course in this 7-month program. So I'm here really to give you a few details about the program, a couple of like organizational details that might concern things like eligibility, selection process, application deadline, program duration, so on and so forth. But I'm also here to talk a little bit about the content of the program, because that is basically what I work with over the duration of these 7 months. If you have any other questions that really are kind of like more organizational questions about Node or anything about the platform, how do you access it, how long the video recordings are up on the platform, etc., you can also direct your questions to Maike Moncayo, who is in the room as well. Maike is the kind of overall programs coordinator for all of Node's programs and courses. So that's the person that you might want to direct your inquiries to. Thank you, Maike, for making that quick cameo. All right, so I think what's easiest is probably if I shared my screen and went through the slides one by one and kind of take some of your questions at the end, or if you have any questions while I'm speaking, please do feel free to drop them into the chat and I'll answer them after the presentation. Okay, so this is the second time that we're actually offering this program. The first iteration was over the course of 10 months, and the second time around, we're offering it a slightly compacted version over the course of 7 months. So what we've done is restructured a little bit, sought to tighten up the program a little bit to give you, kind of like more clarity also in certain areas and certain modules of the program. So I think it's, we've kind of like restructured to give you a better version, a kind of improved formula of program, so to speak. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to really talk, quite quickly about the kind of overview, kind of the structure of the program. So as I already said, it will take place over the course of 7 months. It begins, the dates have been set. So we begin on the 6th of June, 2023, and we end on the 9th of January, 2024. I will be guiding you, so I will be facilitating both the introductory sessions and the closing sessions, so you will see me at the beginning and at the end of the 7-month program. The application deadline for this is the 23rd of May, so coming up pretty soon. And basically, classes are scheduled to take place on Tuesdays from 7 to 9 p.m. Central European time. That's something that might be, worthwhile noting. I'm not sure if all of you are in the same time zone. Usually we don't have people, sitting in the same time zone. And one thing that those of you who might already know who have taken classes at Node before is that due to this kind of difference in time zones, one really useful aspect of Node is that all the classes are video recorded and you have access to these video recordings that are uploaded 24 hours after each session onto the course portal, and you will have access to these videos to watch in your own time. So if for some reason you are traveling or if you're not based in a time zone that follows Central Europe European time, and that classes take place at 3 in the morning for you. Don't fret. You can still follow this program. You can still register yourself, and you can still follow this program every week by watching the video recordings and keeping up with the course that way, keeping up with the program that way. We kind of suggest that you dedicate about 4 hours a week to this program of study. This is kind of like just a rule by thumb, so it's not kind of like prescribed, everyone must dedicate 4 hours per week. But it's more that the 4 hours comprises 2 hours of the lecture, which will take place Tuesday, 7 to 9 p.m. Central European time, and then plus a kind of 2 hours of independent work where you might want to kind of work through some of the material that was discussed in the session, or kind of prepare for the next session. Some of the courses, some of the instructors that are teaching some of these courses as part of this 7-month program, like myself, for instance, what we do is that we also like to give, kind of assignments every week. So in one of the courses that I'll talk about a little bit in a few minutes, I usually give the participants also some assignments and some questions, some kind of self-reflexive questions to think about for the following week. So part of that preparation would be counted into that 2 hours of independent work. The instruction of the language of instruction is English. It is not the kind of mother tongue of all the instructors. So we've kind of arrived at this a little bit like lingua franca of English that people use in the art world. I want to say immediately, and this is also part of my own practice as a curator working in the field of decolonial theory and praxis. Of course, this is not entirely ideal. English itself is a colonial language. It is my native language and my mother tongue, because the country in which I was born and socialized was colonized by the British. So just kind of, one thing to mention about language. That's something that I also think a lot about in my own work. The participation fee, which will be important for you to know, is a grand total of 1,800 if you pay in installments, 8 installments of 225 per month, or you can also opt to pay in the form of one installment. So make a single payment, in which case you would save 20% and you would pay 1,440 euros. And this is for the duration of the 7 months. Sorry about that. Okay, so this is a little bit about the program, and I'm sure that for those of you who are actually sitting in this Q&A, you've probably already read this through on our website. So really, what is this program about? Who is it for? I think it basically, speaks to those of us who are working in curatorial practice, those of us who are working as, cultural workers, artists who are working with institutions and thinking of going into mediation and curatorial practice. It kind of speaks to those of us who are really trying to put theory into practice, right? And to move beyond a kind of like hashtag understanding of certain terms, like diversity, like accessibility, like inclusivity, like decolonize. And so this is at least my own, my own ethos, being the kind of coordinator of this 7-month program. This is how I envision this course to be. This is how we kind of make selections of instructors and people to, facilitate the different modules that are part of this 7-month program. And really the aim is to, get people to think a little bit harder about what things like accountability means, how to be self-reflexive in your own curatorial practice, how to move beyond hashtags and buzzwords, how to be critical of institutions, but also critical of your own, perhaps also the part that you play in institutions if you work in them, right? So I think it really kind of altogether, it's a course that really, seeks to develop a self-reflexive approach in your own practice, right? And you actually do that yourself instead of us doing this for you. So it's a very, kind of like hands-on, it's very much a kind of interactive program. Of course, some, depending on the style of, lecturing and the style of facilitating sessions, there'll be differing amounts of interaction. But I think that those instructors and guest speakers that we've invited actually do, have, very kind of interactive formats of presenting and of teaching. So I think that's one thing that I can already see at the outset. So really this program comprises a series of online courses, guest lectures by inspiring experts, as well as these kind of workshops, these kind of like, reviewing workshops that are placed at a regular interval at the end of each module, where we will be working together. So I will facilitate these working sessions. And the nature of these working sessions are really very much interactive, right? So it's for group discussion and for feedback. So as I mentioned, these are the sessions that I'll be facilitating, in addition to a course that I will be offering within this 7-month program. So the working sessions that I'll be facilitating with you are always occur at the end of each of the modules, and there are 4 modules in this 7-month program, right? So the first module, as you can see on the slide, is queer and feminist curating. The second one, in which I will be offering a course, is on decolonial approaches. The third module is on inclusive practices and communication, and the last one is on conflict. The third one is on inclusive practices, and the fourth one is on communication and conflict transformation. So you can read a little bit more in detail what each one of these modules entail. But basically, it's also just to know that the kind of way that we proceed through the 7-month program is actually something that we've put our heads together and kind of thought quite hard about. So, how we start with, kind of queer and feminist curating, moving through decolonial approaches, and then, kind of like heading towards inclusive practices, and then focusing in the last module on communication and conflict transformation is a little bit of a kind of a build-up. Some of you might be asking, okay, so what is the kind of outcome, right? Like, what is the rainbow at the end of this trail, or like, what is the ultimate thing that we're working towards? I think this is very different for each person, so you all have your different reasons in wanting to join, the 7-month program. I also invite you to obviously, kind of like take stock of your own progress and your own journey throughout these 7 months. The last time I did it, we had a really wonderful, 2 wrap-up sessions where some people really shared about what they learned, what they unlearned, what they started to feel differently about. Even some people even said, wow, it's like, I was so inspired that when I, the very next day, I was starting to put into practice this toolkit that we're talking about, and it really kind of threw the institution a little bit off, their comfy level. So I think it's really, feel free to take what you can out of this program, but I think it's really like each person works it at their own individual pace, and also the outcome will be different for each person. However, the one thing that binds you all together is this final task, which you're expected to produce at the end of the 7-month program, which is an awareness guide of best inclusive practices for your own personal curatorial work, or if you run a project space, or if you work in a gallery for that particular project space or gallery, or even a kind of project that you might be working on. Yeah, so that's the end goal, to create an own awareness guide of best inclusive practices that is for you and for you alone. Right, which is why what I'm trying to say is that this course is, although it's of course, very much modularized and structured, the ultimate outcome and really how you work your way through will be different in each individual, in each individual situation. Right. Okay. So some of the features that we have as part of this course, as I already said, are, kind of like guest sessions. We have 2 guest sessions lined up for you. So far, we have working sessions to critically discuss, reflect, and build on what you have learned in the previous courses. So those working sessions will be facilitated by me. At the end of everything, you also receive a certificate of completion that will be issued to you by Node. And last but not least, and I can really, say that this is something that I've really also appreciated, having worked with Node now for, I think, almost 7 years. Oh my goodness, how time flies. So yeah, so having worked with Node now for almost 7 years, every single time I'm teaching a course or I accompany a course like this in the capacity of, program coordinator, it's always amazing to me how many people I meet and how the interaction in each course is like, so it really does help build a network. It helps you to, form networks. It helps you to interact with one another, to share with each other your own projects and your spaces and things that you care about and things that you're obsessed about. And, I think that's the kind of the spirit of network building and sharing. That's one of the things that Node does, which is to, kind of bring together people from different parts of the world. So that's, definitely something that I think is a kind of very positive aspect of this 7-month program. In terms of the, the kind of like tech aspects or the kind of organizational aspects, as I already mentioned, there will be each week on Tuesdays from 7 to 9, there'll be a 2-hour live session, an interactive session. So you will always be sent a link, a Zoom link, which you can then, access, and you can be part of this class. So that's a live session. Those sessions will be recorded and they will be uploaded onto the course portal, or the program portal, also under different headings, so that you can always find your way through what you've missed. And this content is basically accessible to you forever. So you can always come back to it. There is no kind of like time frame where you have to watch everything and digest everything. You can always come back to it in your own time, depending on your other work schedules, your commitments, life, etc. You get a downloadable certificate, as already mentioned, and then also you'll be actually kind of like given a lot of like resources. I tend to do this also in the sessions that I teach, in the course on like decolonizing curatorial and artistic practice that I teach as part of module 2. Apart from assignments with feedback, I also like to give participants further readings, like books, resources, sometimes, PDFs, etc., that I upload onto the course portal. So, this is what you can expect if you register for this 7-month program. Okay, so the program overview itself, I'll just give a real quick, kind of run through of this. I already said that like I will be accompanying you with the beginning and the end, and then kind of in between you'll see me again. So we'll start off with what we call the introduction of module 0, and I will accompany you on the 6th of June, where I invite you all to introduce yourselves, but also reflect on, what is the current state of curatorial practice? Like what needs to change? What do we need to change? What can we change, etc. So I'll be meeting all of you on the 6th of June. And then after that, we'll launch into module 1, and you see there that we have basically 2 courses, one by Sylvia on queer art and curating, queer curating, and then the second one by Maya on feminisms and art, practical approaches. So again, kind of like very hands-on, practical approaches. That's what we, try to focus on in this 7-month program. And then after the end of those 2 courses, there'll be a talk where I'll be moderator, and this is a talk with the invited guest speaker, Federica Berti, who is a writer, editor, formerly worked at Savvy Contemporary in Berlin, and a friend of mine. So I have invited her to be part of this course. We also already had her speak as part of the first iteration of this program, and it was received really well. So we invited her back again. And then the week after, on the 18th of July, I'll be having the first working session with you, in which I'll go through, some of the particularities and, kind of answer any questions you might have, and kind of open up a more thorough discussion for things that you didn't get time to discuss in class, which will basically go through, module 1. So the 2 courses in module 1 plus the guest talk by Federica, if necessary. Same thing with module 2. We have 2 courses in that module as well. The first one will be led by myself, that I already introduced, on decolonizing curatorial and artistic practice. And then the second one also by a peer of mine, Arlene Tucker, a diversity training workshop. So again, kind of very much hands-on tools. And then wrapping up with a working session of module 2, moving on to module 3, where we have, again, 2 courses. The first one by Sean on accessibility and curating, which I can highly recommend. And then the second one by Daniel on public programming and inclusive approaches, after which we will have our second guest speaker, Noah Winter, speaking on disability and inclusion in the arts. So also very much speaking about disability justice arts. And I'll be moderating that conversation. And then we will wrap up module 3 with a working session on October 17th. And then finally on to module 4, where we'll have 2 courses. The first one by Hesperia, who also is a lecturer at Node, on communicating art clearly to audiences, and the second one by Farbot, who's also part of Node, on inclusive communication, the core concepts, tools, and guidelines, and again, a kind of very hands-on approach, practice-based approach to these issues. And then this will, module 4 will be wrapped up with a conflict transformation workshop, again by Arlene, who had previously already offered a course in module 2, and then accompanied with Kame, who is her colleague. And then finally, last but not least, we have the closing module, module 5, where we will have 1 working session with myself, where I will go through all of module 4, and then do the final program wrap up, which is then after the kind of Christmas and New Year break, in which you have the time to put together your best practices guide, right? So your kind of awareness guide. So the program wrap-up will take place on January the 8th and 9th. And basically that's the time where we will share each other's assignments. It's like, okay, so what does your awareness guide look like? Here's mine. And, here are some things that I was thinking about and some things that I found important. And what did you find interesting or important to think about, right? So that's basically when we do that kind of sharing, and kind of like colloquium style session, to kind of exchange ideas and to converse further. Okay, so yeah, those of you who then sign up will get to know me a little bit better. I think I can just skip over this slide as well. Yeah, coming on to the kind of, the enrollments and fees, I think these are some things that I already mentioned. The deadline for applications is the 23rd of May. You have to click on I think there's also a link on the where you see the program advertised on the Node Center website. There is a form that you have to fill out, and you will receive an email back to say that we have received your application. If your application is successful, you'll then be able to enroll in the program, and then you just click enroll on the Inclusive Practices program page on the Node Center website, and then follow the next steps to make payment. And once you've paid in full, your enrollment is confirmed and you are ready to go. You're all set. Okay, so I think I'll skip over this because I think I already mentioned this, that you get a 20% discount if you pay all at once rather than via installments. The one thing that, the one thing that I do have to mention is that Node doesn't provide scholarships or fee reductions for its program. But if you are seeking external funding, so if you are writing an application to be funded in order to attend this program, Node will happily provide a letter of recommendation and say that, you have been accepted into the program, and that basically you need funding in order to participate. Unless, so I just said that, Node doesn't provide scholarships or fee reductions in very, very singular cases, like, and this is really on a case-by-case basis, and it's not me who decides, but I guess the kind of like Node who decides. In certain circumstances, Node may consider offering a fee reduction, but this is really decided on a case-to-case basis and cannot be guaranteed. Each case will be evaluated as applications come in. And so for more information on this, please write to the following email address. It's info@nodecenter.org. Okay, so info@nodecenter.org. Someone will reply, probably Micah will reply to you directly by email. Okay, last thing before I open up the floor to questions or, comments, anything that you might want to ask. Oh, so sorry. I'm going to try and move this down.
If you just click on the gray on the side, it should.
Yeah, I'm trying to. It's just that every time I forget and I press the arrow button on my keyboard, it goes right up to the. I'm trying to kind of click my way down. Yeah, so basically with accessibility, again, these are kind of very technical details, but we really strive to host an inclusive, accessible program, that enables all individuals to engage fully. If you have any accessible needs, please once again write to info@nodecenter.org. That email does not reach me, but I will be, kind of forwarded any particular requests that are important also to know. For each session, and we'll do our best to meet your access needs. So this is the email that you write to in case you do have any accommodation requirements. It's info@nodecenter.org. Okay, I think the technical information is something that maybe I can just quickly go through. Again, all classes, all sessions, all guest lectures, all workshop wrap-up module sessions, working sessions are all hosted on Zoom. So Zoom is the main, kind of like app or program that we'll be using. Closed captioning will be available during each video conference, and every week you will get a link in an email 24 hours before the meeting to join that particular Zoom session. Okay, and then, yeah, last but not least, and this is the last slide, and then I can open up to questions. If you have any questions that are kind of specific to this course, you can write them to courses@nodecenter.org. And if you have any kind of like more organizational questions about funding, about, I don't know, if they, because of an exception due to whatever circumstance, you already know that you can't meet the deadline for submitting an application, but you would like to do it anyway, again, write all of this to info@nodecenter.org. If you have questions about fees and, want to ask if the fee can be reduced for you, also write that to info@nodecenter.org. Okay, so I'll stop sharing the screen now, and then just a couple more things before we open it to the floor, and I'll just kind of go through these points. Yeah, so I think basically just two more points that are that weren't explicitly mentioned already in the presentation. The one concerns eligibility. So basically, what are the prerequisites of the program? What are the kind of criteria, like admission criteria, what's eligibility? So basically what we write on the website is that we require candidates to possess a good understanding and background in the fundamental principles of curating and contemporary art. That's very loosely formulated because I think, as with most of the programs and courses that we offer at Node, we also like to encourage diversity in terms of people's experience and backgrounds, whether it's institutional background, whether it's self-taught, whether you've been working for like 20 years. I've had people sitting in the courses that I facilitated who have worked, as curators for 35 years. And then I'm like, okay, the floor is yours, I'm here to learn from you as well. So yeah, it's kind of like we really, the only thing that we I think kind of emphasizes that you have an understanding and background, kind of like the 101s of, curatorial practice or curatorial studies and contemporary art. And that's really, all that we have under admission criteria and eligibility. The selection process is also very simple. You apply by filling out that form that I mentioned that you can access once you go onto the program website, the program page on the Node Center website. There is a form. You click on that form, you fill out the form. I can actually also maybe already real quick share with you what the form looks like. Maybe that's a good idea, just so that you already know. It'll take me 2 seconds to do this. So this is the website on Node, as you can see. And then, you click on enroll, you'll be directed to this form. Once you click on this, you will reach this page here. So the application form, you fill out your name, email address, country of residence, your occupation. And I think the main things that we'll be looking at are the following, right? So just your motivation, and really, really short, like 250 words max, right? What's your motivation to join this program? Why do you want to join it? Why is it important for you? And then some links to your curatorial or artistic practice, if it's applicable. What experience do you have in this field? Again, all very short, right? 250 words. It's really just, a few sentences. And then last but not least, do you have any accommodation requirements? If so, let us know how we can meet your needs. And that's it. That's the form, and that's what you click on. Once you filled everything out, you click on submit, and we will receive it, and we'll review your application, and we'll get back to you. So yeah, and the deadline for applying, so the deadline for clicking on this form and filling it out and submitting it is the 23rd of May. Yeah, so I think that's it from me in terms of trying to lay out, all the different aspects of the program, and also kind of more technical details, organizational details like application deadlines, admission criteria, eligibility, program duration, fees. Yeah.
And the presentation,
let me know if there are any questions.
Yeah, the PDF that you showed is available also on the Node website, on the page of the program, right? If someone
yes, it is.
To refer back to it. Yeah, great. Yeah, we're going to be opening up to questions. I can start with one which kind of came up to me as you were speaking. I was wondering about the balance between theory and practice, or theory and the kind of more interactive group discussions, these elements. Is this a course for both someone who is very interested in theory and someone who is wanting to learn skills to actually implement in their practice? Could it be a PhD student, but also could it be someone who's running an artist-run space?
Totally. That's a great question, Maria. Thank you. Absolutely. It's for people at both ends of that spectrum and everything in between, right? So basically, some of the courses, and again, depending on the style of instruction, and also the kind of experience of that instructor, how their own practice looks like, some courses and some of the modules will lean a little bit more heavily towards theory, and others will lean very heavily towards practice. So we try to strike a balance in this. For my own, and I can just speak for myself. I'm someone who used to work in academia for a long, long time in mainstream academia. And since having left it in 2018, and working full-time as a freelance curator and owning my own space, mental health art space in Berlin, I am someone who, has really sought to take that leap between, going from theory and, abstraction to practice, right? So one of the ways that I do this is also, to try to cover that base in the course that I offer as part of this program. But of course, I think that the nerdiness doesn't leave you once you leave academia. So I also like to give participants, kind of like lists of further reading and other books that I'm inspired by, works by intersectional feminists, Black feminists, etc. So I think that, like inadvertently, I also, kind of recommend a lot of theory, but I think my understanding on this and my ethos would be all of this theory would be nothing if it's not put into practice, right? Or if there isn't this kind of striving towards putting this into practice. So this kind of like transfer, as you might call it. Yeah, so it's to answer your question, very briefly, I think it's for, both people who want to, kind of clue themselves up on more theory, who are theory thirsty, and for people who want to dive into the more practical side of things.
Great. One question that I have that's more organizational, but you mentioned kind of networking, and that it's a great opportunity to meet other curators, artists, potential collaborators. And in the program overview, there's all these individual sessions, and I was wondering, is it one closed group, or are these sessions also available to the public, like some kind of one-off or shorter notes courses? Do you kind of start as the same and finish as the same group?
If I understood correctly, you're asking if individual sessions can be accessible to a more general public who are not registered for.
Yeah, if you register for the whole course, are you staying in the same group, or can you expect just people popping in for one event?
I see. Okay. I mean, it's pretty mixed. In the last iteration of the course, we kind of realized as the course went on that there was then, kind of like a core group that started to develop, right, who were then there for most, if not all of the sessions every week. I think, again, this can very much depend on your capacity, like your work commitments, what time of the year it is, how things are aligning or not for you, how life takes over, but I think, I mean, generally, the sessions that, both the working sessions, which are a little bit more interactive, as well as the sessions with the guest speakers, I think those are the ones where we sometimes do have people dropping in and out, so kind of more in, more frequently. So, people who drop in to, see, like kind of experience live, a kind of recap, of the module, then people who just pop in to hear the guest speaker speak. So those groups or those particular sessions, I think sometimes have a little bit more than the core group who follow, every single week and every single course and every single module and, and so on from beginning to end. But I would say that, the participation also, yeah, it kind of fluctuates. Sometimes we have courses where, more people are watching recorded, like the video recordings to catch up on those modules, on those courses, and sometimes we have courses where there are more people live, so I think there really isn't a general rule of thumb, but yeah, I think it kind of fluctuates throughout the program. Just going to read your question, Rachel. Yeah, how many people are enrolled in the course in total? Micah, would you like to weigh in on that? Because you would have more of an overall course overview, I guess.
Hi, everyone. I'm Micah. I'm in charge of the overall course coordination at Node. Yeah, so we admit up to 32 students, but like Kathy Ann said, usually they're not all live in the live sessions. But yeah, we limit the enrollment to 32 students. Yeah.
Does that answer your question, Rachel? Great. Yeah. Yeah. And basically it's, you know, as I said, like it fluctuates from week to week. Sometimes we have 8 people who are following live. Sometimes we have 20 people who follow live, you know. And yeah, it's also nice to, you know, have that kind of fluctuation, because sometimes you have a little bit more of an intimate discussion and exchange with just a few people. And, you know, other times you really hear a lot of different perspectives, you know, coming in together at the table. So.
Yeah, are there any more questions to Kathy Ann? Yeah, you can put them in the chat, or you can unmute yourself. You should be able to do that. Let me know if you can't, and I'll unmute you. Right, I think, yeah, it seems like there's no more questions. One thing that I thought about just now was, that I'd like to ask you about is, you said that it's kind of really for everyone who is interested in curating, whether they have a lot of experience or not. And I was wondering, does this refer to people who work with any media? Let's say, is it also a valuable course for someone who, let's say, curates film as much as someone who runs a space, or someone who works online and someone who works in physical world?
Sure. The short answer would be, I think, yes, Maria. So I think, you know, basically this course is you know, really like for anyone working in, you know, the various types of, you know, the different types of labor and different types of contexts, institutional contexts, media related contexts, right? That we understand as curatorial practice, right? So whether it's, you know, whether you are curating an archive, or whether you are head curator working in an institution, whether you are someone who's just been appointed in an outreach position, you know, and find yourself doing more curatorial work than anything else, you know, on behalf of the institution. It's really for those people who want to be a little bit more self-reflexive and conscious and kind of critical, you know, about your own practice, and also about you know, the ways in which institutions and, you know, curating as a field more generally, you know, how accessible is it, you know, like how critical is it, you know, of certain exclusionary measures, or certain kind of structural exclusions. As you can see from the different modules, you know, we're also thinking about things like how to decolonize the institution. You know, how do we move its soft structures? You know, how do we change its soft architectures if we can't tear down the buildings? That's one of the things that I'll be talking about in my course in that module.
Great.
Yeah.
One question
Hannah or Rachel?
But Hannah, yeah, someone else.
Hannah, I think.
Yes.
Go ahead, Hannah.
Hi, thank you.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Hannah. My pronouns are they, them. Thank you for the introduction. I have a question regarding this, for who can take part of this course, because I'm wondering, I'm a curator, and I'm also working in this kind of field, like with queer photography and visibilities of queer history and art and stuff like that. And so I kind of assume that I already have experience in this kind of field, but I want to be more self-reflexive and learn more. But sometimes I'm really unsure if I really should take place in this course as well, or is it like for people who don't have experiences with this kind of field at all?
Thank you, Hannah. The short answer to that is you're very welcome to join the program. I think, again, it's for, you know, people with varying you know, levels of experience, and, you know, kind of course, at the end of the day, you judge your own, you know, kind of like level of experience, or, you know, like you might, you know, kind of wonder, well, you know, do I already have a bit of a grounding in this? Do I not? You know, things are, yeah, I don't know, more information is coming up always. And, you know, I would encourage you to register for the program, you know, if it's within your means. I think that it can only be something that is generative and enriching for you. And I kind of think, I mean, my own personal take on this, of course, is that, you know, you can't, I mean, this is actually a lifelong thing, right? I don't think we stop working in the fields of anti-racist curatorial practice, decolonial curatorial practice. I think this is a lifelong thing. So in a way, you know, to say a 7-month course, 7-month program, you know, this is also not what we're kind of aiming to do, like wave this magic wand, and by the end of 7 months, you know, it's like, that's it, you're the perfect, you know, kind of inclusive, you know, curator of the, you know, but I think it's more of like giving you the opportunity to immerse yourself in, and kind of you know, in regular sessions. So like once a week, you know, you come back to this material. Once a week, you're pushed to think harder. Once a week, you are, you know, faced to sometimes step outside of your comfort zone, and etc. Or, you know, kind of build a safer space for, you know, others who experience marginalization every day of their lives, you know, in work and life. So I think it, you know, short answer is for sure, you know, I would say this course is for you. If you're interested, please do register, enroll. I'm going to hop on to Rachel's question, following from one of Maria's questions. How do the individual modules in the course compare to the shorter node courses? For instance, you're one of short node course on decolonizing curatorial and artistic practice versus the module that you teach on this longer course. That's a really great question, and I can directly answer this by saying that, so for instance, the course that I'm teaching on decolonizing curatorial and artistic practice in the 7-month program comprises 3 sessions. Okay, and usually the course that I offer as a standalone, so the individual decolonizing curatorial and artistic practice course at Node comprises 4 sessions and an introduction. So it's really 5 weeks altogether. So really it's a kind of like, I don't know, compression, or I don't know, best of, you know, where I would then selectively, you know, put together or make a 3-session version of a 4+1 longer course, right? So that's a direct kind of example, you know, to answer your question. The other thing is that, of course, yeah, you're welcome, Rachel. The other thing, of course, is that not all of the courses that are offered as part of the 7-month Inclusive Practices program is available as one-off, you know, course, as a one-off shorter course. So mine is one of those that is actually offered as a shorter node course, but not all of the courses in this program are available in that format, in that other format.
Yeah, and additionally, there are guest curators who come in, right? That's kind of
That's correct.
Part of
yeah, that's correct. There are 2 guest speakers in this program.
Great. Seems like we kind of answered all the questions that there were, and we're almost running at an hour. So I think let's wrap up here. In the chat, you can find the links to both the Node website and Call for Curators website, and the email address if you want to chat more about this course and find out more. So yeah, I think thank you very much everyone for attending, and thank you so much, Kathy Ann, for being here today. and sharing very generously.
Thank you, Maria, and thank you, everyone. And I hope to see you again.